Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wandering Squires Cup semifinals. We have, in the teal, or cyan if you prefer, the man with double digits, the vanquisher of the Iron Kaiser in the Wandering Squires Cup. We have Ten Finger Tom. And his opponent in the red, Big D12 Plus, playing as the Malians, against Ten Finger Tom's Koreans. I have, as usual, with me, Hiram of Tyre. Hiram, what do you think? I'm going to skip the whole, how are you doing today? Because I think we all know the answer. You're looking forward to casting some AoE, right?
Right.
So let's dive right into the details here. What do you think about this matchup, Koreans versus Malians?
Skipping the civs for just a second, I have to acknowledge I know nothing about the players, or very little. I know a little about Ten Finger Tom because I watched him play a few games,
Right.
but only a few, so I don't know about style. And looking at the way these civs, their stack up of bonuses, it's going to be a question of whether or not the players know how to take advantages of those bonuses against the civs. And here's what I mean. So we've got two different play styles going on here between the Koreans and the Malians. Now, the Koreans, his initial bonus, the biggest one that I can see, believe it or not, is the line of sight given to the villagers. They get +3, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought it was plus
line of sight.
Yeah, +3, you're right.
And meta is to scout with a villager, to put your initial villagers on wood, get a few on wood, but to scout with a villager. And that's going to give, if he uses it, that's going to give Tom leverage on resources, on positioning in a lot of different areas, and that's pretty significant in a nomad map. Additionally, the ability to, his towers automatically upgrade, so being able to just drop a tower and have it cover without having to invest any future resources is significant. Koreans are not one of my favorite civs, but in Nomad, I think it works really well. The flip side to that is one of their heaviest hitting units is the War Wagon. It's one of their signature plays. And the Malians, with their infantry bonus, counter that awful significantly. So it's one of those things where if Tom decides to tech and heavy into Cav Archer or War Wagon or something else, and D12 decides to go into just straight infantry, Tom's gonna have a hard time, especially because the map is closed enough by the outer water that he can only kite so long, and War Wagons are already hard to kite with because of their animations, because of their fire rate and things like that. So that's already tricky. On the other hand, if Tom decides to go something else, or he decides to back up his units with War Wagons instead of making them his primary unit, it could play out pretty significantly. I will say, if Tom gets control of the map early with towers, then that's before the Malian's bonus becomes as significant as it will be later in the game. That could be big. If Tom waits until late game to start taking advantage of his towers, his D12's infantry are going to be pretty much immune to it by that point. So, it's two different styles here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. You've hit on most of the things that jumped to my mind when I was looking at the civilizations and their differences. The Koreans, and that +2 line of sight jumped out to me as well. I'm thinking, I would not have considered them a top-tier nomad choice, but as I was going through their options, I realized, wow, there are some significant benefits that they bring to the table. That +2 line of sight means a lot for getting sheep you might otherwise not get, for scouting out more of the map than you otherwise might not. And I even checked, you can even see if you pull up the map right now, that it looks to me like Tom has a lot more of the map uncovered than D does. And I think that a portion of that, and I don't know how much of it, because I think he's also doing more sheep scouting than D has, but I think that that extra line of sight is really helping out Tom early on. And as you mentioned, they have things like the units costing less wood, or fewer wood, which would be a really big bonus for like a nomad map, for some early pressure and that kind of thing. I imagine an archer rush would go really well, typically, for a Korean player. because you have the cheaper, or the less wood required for their military units, including their archers. You have the archer armor upgrades coming in immediately with every age. So some really nice bonuses there. And I wonder if that includes the fishing ships too. I don't know whether they if those are cheaper as well, but if they are, that would be even one more feather in Tom's cap.
I don't think they're cheaper, but
yeah.
But
on the other hand, as you mentioned, with the Malians, they have the extra pierce armor on their infantry built in, and the flexibility. I think we saw that in my match against Tom, game 1. The Malians proved very useful, and I think that the range of options D has will give him a flexibility at least that I don't know that we're going to see out of the Koreans. The towers could be nice if Tom really wants to go out of his way to do some tower play or something like that. That's an option. But I don't know. And it doesn't look to me like he's set up for that. I don't see a lot of stone near... I guess he's scouted some stone to the south. So there are some options if he wants to do that.
He could go out of his way to get it, but it's not something that he can just grab super easily. He's going to have to put some effort into that.
And I think that's part of the nature of playing on Nomad, is you get a little scared to try something too crazy early on, Like, if you're playing Arabia and you decide, I'm gonna go with a tower rush, you sort of know that you're gonna have stone available, vaguely where you are, where he is, things feel a little bit more set in stone. Here, you don't even know if you're gonna get stone, you don't know where your opponent is. I don't know if... I see that Tom has scouted out a couple of houses. But
yeah, he probably knows where D is.
But you just don't know where to place a tower effectively to block off whatever resources he may or may not have. I would be surprised if Tom goes for a tower rush. Especially seeing now that he's on gold. Yeah, I don't see him moving stone at all.
With the focus on gold that he's got going on right now, 5, I'm suspecting archers. He's already teching up. Of course, they're both already teching up.
Right.
What's one thing worth pointing out right now is that Tom has stopped with 6 fishing ships,
and D's up to 12 to 9.
9.
Yeah. And so
Tom is getting his second dock up right now. D's had his second dock up for a little bit, so.
And Fire Galley's already on the way, so D is definitely going to attempt to take control of the water here, for sure.
Definitely. I know I say this a lot. I still don't like the fire galleys. I still think galleys is the better choice. If you know you can get away with only 1 or 2, fire galleys are going to do much better. If you know your enemy's not going to commit, fire galleys do much better. But if you don't know that, I don't know, man. One thing that is significant, I don't know how big it's going to play out as the game goes forward, is that Tom is kind of fenced in. He's blocked in with where his fishing eco can go. He has to go past D's fishing eco in order to, at some point he's going to have to go into area that's already been covered. Meanwhile, D kind of has free reign. All he has to do is put maybe a tower or a couple ships along that strait that separates him and Tom, and his fishing eco is safe. And expansive. Of course, Tom could always build another dock and a bunch more ships on the other side of the island, but that costs wood and time and headspace.
It is interesting that, indeed, Tom has committed to a 3rd dock, and he's going galleys. So we're going to see galley versus fire galley here.
It's all about the micro. You have to be willing to micro.
Here we go.
If it's fire and forget, fire always wins. All right.
Even worse than fire and forget. Oh, he's just lured right in. I don't think he didn't see it
2
until...
galleys into 4. There's no chance there. I mean, even if you're microing, 2 galleys against 4 fire galleys is hard. You've really got to take advantage of the range. And again, for Tom, where he's kind of cornered in here, it's going to be hard to micro around this little lake that he has access to.
Now, fortunately for him, D backing out. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that. D should know the docks are there. I believe he does. Yeah, he sees at least 1 dock, so he should know the Navy's there. He got a really sizable win. Why is he not pressuring with that? That's surprising to me.
I think he wants to check the other side and see where Tom is. But then again, he doesn't know that the lake doesn't wrap all the way around.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know at all.
I think he's just reflexively playing safer rather than sorry. But I think that's
Yeah.
a mistake here. He
I
should have gone
agree.
in on that.
Yeah, that was it was
It's
open.
it's
He could have
hard.
taken down.
It's a hard situation when, you and I, we got the bird's eye view, so we know what the right decision is. But I think even if you're in the moment as D, you just secured a really nice win on 2 galleys. And so you know he can't have that much navy up, right?
Yep.
And on top of that, if he's going galleys, you win that in lower numbers. He will start winning that if he gets to build up enough of a navy. So there's even more reason to put pressure on now.
All right, so they decide to put pressure on the fishing ships. Tom responds. Let's see how well he does.
Yeah, both players going up to castle age. D again with a kind of an advantage early on. He'll hit castle first.
Now, I think Tom is making the right play here and not contesting this area here for 2 reasons. Number one, like I said, even if he wins control over this lake, it doesn't have that much left in it. Like, it does have some, but it doesn't have that much.
Yeah.
So it would be far better for him to take all those resources he would have spent into contesting this lake and contest something else.
Yeah. Agreed. So I think he's made exactly the right call at this point, given the situation. Just take your losses and run. Yeah. I actually really like the idea of moving out to maybe you could take a ship down with you.
Yeah.
Unlikely, but hey.
Do galleys move faster than fire galleys? Seems like they do.
Apparently so. I don't know.
All right, fletching coming in, as well as the mill and the lumber camp upgrades. Yeah. He's now on stone and gold, so he is going to be in a much better position to get a castle up or again get towers. I don't think towers is the right call, but he could. Well, there it is. He's got a tower up already. Good for him. And of course, being the Koreans, that tower automatically upgrades to a guard tower as soon as Castle Age comes in. So that's good. I think he's going to run into problems. We've got knights here. He doesn't have military up to protect the towers, and the towers are not in a mutually supporting position. So my gut impulse is to say that this tower here is going to go down. If your play is towers, and I learned this from you, if you're going to make a play around something, A, don't do it with one villager. B, protect the assets you've allocated. So if you're going to, make a play off of a tower, house wall your villager in first. It doesn't have to be or a quick wall, rather, your villager in first. It can make a huge difference.
Now, something that I think would be a nice idea, so D here is going knights, and that's respectable. I mean, when I played Malians, I opened knights. So I think that's a fair choice. If the game plan is just to send units to whack away at enemy buildings, though, one option that he could consider is going infantry instead. They are cheaper. They will have, of course, the extra pierce armor as a Malian infantry, but you can get more bang for your buck as long as you're not concerned about mobility. Infantry are often the cheaper, better option than knights.
Agreed. Having said that, though, when you're playing against towers, cav are better. They take less fire coming in. They can react a lot faster if they need to slip and grab the villagers who are building. I think I respect the knight play. What I do question is him teching into the blacksmith tax, and here's why. Number one, if you're Malians, in my opinion, and you open knights, your play is to push knights hard enough to where he pushes back with pikes or some form of cav archer in order to mop up with your infantry when they come in.
Right.
And in that sense, teching into the cav, the barding armor, and now we've got bloodlines coming in as well. It seems to be not a waste of resources. He's got cav on the field. It will help, but maybe not the best use of resources.
All right, so just a snapshot here as we have D attacking with knights. He just got his second town center up. Tom has had his second town center up for a little while. Eco's about even. Tom is also working on a castle. Oh, and the attempted quick wall not working out for him. He's going to lose his Stonevilles.
Not quite enough. Good time.
Yep.
I think, and again, it's easy to sound like we're down, and I'm not. I'm really not. I think Tom's doing well. I think he's making the right plays. But quick walling as the knights are running at you is a lot less effective than quick walling when they start to attack the palisades.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point of the palisade. It's not really going to keep the
Exactly.
knights out. It's going to give you enough time to, it'll give you a couple extra seconds to decide what your reaction will be.
Yep.
Oh,
Tom's going to lose a lot of villagers here.
This is a decisive moment for D.
Having said that, looking at the total Vil count, even with all of these deaths so far, yeah, it's 38. Well, now it's significant, but it's not everything significant. Tom's got, he's got 2 town centers. They've been up for a little bit longer. Even though the Vils are a little different, the eco advantage is not as different as it would seem right now if Tom keeps his town centers working. He'll take a momentary hiccup and he'll be able to reset pretty significantly.
Yeah.
I don't think
agree.
that the teching into or the building spearmen necessarily is the right call. Those knights can just run down 2 spearmen and they don't have any kind of real tech.
Not to mention, this is playing out exactly like you suggested. D is researching men-at-arms right now.
Yeah.
So if Tom goes heavy into spearmen, pikemen, only for D to show up with infantry, that might be GG.
Yeah. It's tricky because, kind of like I was mentioning, the Koreans, their big thing tends to be archery in some form, whether that's towers or castles or war wagons or something. And those happen to be the same thing that the Malians are good against. So the Malians can either go cav, in which case you can go spearmen and get mopped up by the Malian infantry, and that's GG. Or you can go archer. I'm sorry, you can go spearman to deal with the cav and then get mopped up by the infantry, in which case it's GG. Or you can go archer, i.e. war wagon, and then do nothing to the infantry hordes that are busting down your gates because you're still an archer. So it's a tricky situation.
Yeah. I would guess that if you went heavy enough into archers, I don't know. I really don't know. Because I don't want to overplay the extra pierce armor on the Malian infantry either. Maybe it seems like archers should still counter them, just maybe not as effectively as they otherwise would. If Tom had a decisive military advantage of archers, I think if I were him right now, I'd still be thinking archers were my main play.
I mean, I would too, if for no other reason. That's your civ. In a way, you've got to make it work.
Yeah.
It's a question of how.
You know what else I would like to see? He's got a relic right in his base. I want to see a monastery, get a couple of monks out, convert some of these knights.
Right. That's what I would prefer as the counter because versus the spearmen. Number one, spearmen. I think it was you who told me this before. Spearmen barely tickle knights. So, and they do. Like a spearman counters scout cav, but knights, you need enough of them. And 5 ain't gonna cut it.
Yeah.
But a couple monks now. Now looking at Tom, I had not enough men to defend, so I attacked. I like this play a lot.
Yeah.
I think in many
like
ways,
that too.
this is one of the hardest things to learn in an AoE. And it's a great strat. I'm a little disappointed. Tom misses the gold being mined up there.
Yeah.
It's there for the taking with his war wagons, and I don't know if he just doesn't see it. Checking now. Yeah, he just by the sheerest, like he sees the mining camp, but he doesn't see the Vils. By the smallest margin, he's not able to see it. That's sad. That's hard. But hey,
does he win this? We got a fight breaking out here. Hold on.
All right.
What do we got? D running away. I think that is the correct move. Yeah. I believe Tom would win this if that were a head-to-head fight.
Yeah, 11 war wagons versus
forward castle. Okay.
Good play. And look at now look at this. D's got a ram. I don't know what he intends to do with it. It was built forward, but now it's on the backswing. Tom kind of forcing D's hand. He's either got to attack the war wagons and let the villagers get the castle up, or he's got to attack the villagers and lose his knights.
Yep. This is
not going to work either way.
Tom is taking some serious losses here, but I think the castle will go up.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, wait a minute. Like he's trying to wall in these Vils. Oh no.
This is why you do it
first. Oh no. Wait. Oh
Maybe
no!
no. Oh,
This
we.
is a doubt
It's.
castle.
It might be a doubt castle. He might get it up. I doubt he will, but he might.
92.75% complete.
Oh. If it's any consolation, Tom, doubt would be proud.
Yeah. Oh, that was. I thought early on that the War Wagons would win that fight against the Knights.
Yeah.
And maybe if there were just some more, pikemen as kind of the meat shield up front, because he had upgraded from spearman to pike. So
Yeah, I saw that.
he had that advantage. If he had maybe just had a couple of more combined with the War Wagons, maybe that would have made the difference. Or again, probably even just one or two more vills, that castle goes up.
Yeah, I mean, truly. When you're at 92.75%, it doesn't take much to make that last difference. But yeah. Again, I'm not knocking Tom. I want to reemphasize this. Always start by quick walling your stuff in. You don't have to build it. You can delete the wall after the castle goes up. But the ability to just task villagers to foundations already placed versus trying to place the foundations in that moment is often the difference between the castle going up and the castle not going up.
Something I really appreciate about D's play here is he has got up a couple more barracks. He's got, it looks like 4 right now? No, he's got 5 barracks up in total. And he is not waiting for Tom to force his hand into tech switching. I think he knows that he has a military advantage right now with the Knights. And he's just decided, I'm already good with the Knights. Let me get something else on the field just to support them or do something different, so I can take advantage of all of my Malian bonuses. I like that move a lot.
Now, here's another thing. I was kind of knocking the cav armor, and if you'll notice, D hasn't gotten his infantry armor, which is, I think, its own mistake. But
there it is, as you mention it.
Here it comes. Okay. But what that means is his infantry with no bonuses, no specific bonuses, that still get the forging and the casting bonuses, are equal in pierce armor effectively to his cav because of the Malian bonus.
Yeah.
So, he had the resources to do it. He could have done it a little faster, but even without doing that, his infantry are still effective against the archers without the bonus, and the cav, maybe they needed the bonus just a little farther. Maybe this is him. I don't know if this is him just leaning into something that's working because of where his tech has gone versus a calculated play. It feels like a calculated play.
Yeah. Here we go. Now, here, he's made the move that I was suggesting earlier. Pikemen supported by War Wagons. And if D had stayed pure Knights, or Scout Cav, I think that works perfectly. And in fact, in that engagement, that was perfect. That's exactly what you want if you're Tom. It's a breathing room.
Yep.
But now you've got to deal with 12 longswordsmen. And you're not going to save that town center. That's going down.
No, it's going to go down. And, you've got a castle up in the, in the upper section. You've got looks like another castle coming in down here. Yeah, maybe you get those up. But still, you've got a pretty high amount of piercing.
Tom has no military.
On both your offense and your on both your infantry and your cav.
Yep.
These guys can just knock down whatever. They could knock down 4 castles in a row as it stands right now, unless Tom gets a military out.
I think D's done a very good job taking small leads and snowballing it into a larger win.
I agree.
I think it all started with pushing him out of the lake early on. That wasn't the biggest thing in the world, but just shutting down that little part of his food economy meant that D gets up to castle age faster than Tom does. And then that means you get knights out faster. And, we had a big gambit by Tom that almost paid off, but didn't. And I think just again and again, small wins for D that added up to where he was able to make this move here.
I got to say, if that castle went up, especially because it was ranging at least part of the villagers into the town center and the wood line. And, if that castle went up, we could be looking at an entirely different game.
Possibly.
I think that because Tom's plan leaned so heavily on war wagons to supplement the pikes, not just losing the castle as a defensive position, because that's its own thing, but losing the castle as as a place where you're able to produce war wagons.
Yeah.
It slowed his war wagon production, which meant he did not have enough mass. He couldn't get the ball to counter the horde that D brought, and
Right.
Trickle down effects. But well played.
Well played indeed. We move on to game 2. And here we are, game 2. We're on my favorite map, Golden Hill. If you remember, of course, my set against 10-Fingered Tom, this is where he laid into me as the Japanese against my Bulgarians. And here we see Tom in the teal playing as Bulgarians. Tom, I see you. I think I know what's going on here. I'm hoping that you're giving me a little shout out by picking Bulgarians on Golden Hill.
He's either giving you a shout out or he's flexing on you. Saying,
He might be flexing on me.
Hey,
yeah.
look, I can win as Bulgarians. Why couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Let me show you how it's done, you noob. I'm sure that's what Tom is thinking right now. And of course, his opponent.
Quick conversation aside.
Yeah.
I want to point this out just as it happens. It looks like D is going to slip a villager, and I think that's brilliant.
Ooh.
No, it's just a dock.
Or he's just gonna put a dock right there in Tom's face.
Or he's gonna put a dock and then slip it. But I've got to be honest. I think slipping a villager in this map could, just like Black Forest, could be brilliant. You've only got one mainline avenue. The downside being, of course, your enemy can expect it. You can always build a transport ship and ferry a bunch over, so you never feel nearly as secure as in Black Forest. But I think the presumption that your enemy will build over on their island while you build on yours could be a dangerous one. This is one of those maps where that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the civilizations here. We've got Tom playing as the Bulgarians, and of course I had picked Bulgarians on Golden Hill. My theory crafting was you've got the infantry upgrades that come in with every age up, so really strong. You have a drush that's possible. You have, again, you can always fall back on your militia line, right, as you need it. So really nice bonus there for the Bulgarians. On top of that, they have the Krepost, which is perhaps the best defensive unit in the game, or defensive building in the game. It's up there if it's not number 1. And I see very interesting lure moves there to get the boar down. I like it. He's got an early eco lead, and I think that's just because he got his town center up faster than D did, because D had built the dock.
Yeah.
So I think D will probably get the eco going. Well, I take that back. They both have docks, so
yeah.
I don't know who takes the lead here.
Now, I like D. It looks like he's beginning to wall off the shallows on the far end of the island, and I think this is the right play.
Yes, he is doing what I should have considered a long time ago in my own tournament game. Doing the wall off, exactly. This will keep Tom out of that center island, and that means Tom's going to have to fall back on the gold and the stone on his side of the base. If you can't break through with that, D wins.
Yeah. It's like the old children's book. If you can't go, under it, over it, or through it, you can always go around it. One transport ship can ferry a bunch of forces back and forth across and just bypass that wall. No matter how thickly D walls it off, a transport ship can pretty much eliminate it. Yeah. So, I think a wall there is good in the sense of giving you surety that they're not slipping a bunch of forces straight across. But it does not prevent Tom from accessing the island necessarily.
I agree with you in theory. However, I can almost guarantee you these two will be waging naval war for control of the moat. And so one or the other will probably have water control by the time you would want to consider a transport ship, is my suspicion.
I grant that. And that brings to section 2. Number 1, if you hold that shallows, if you build straight across that shallows, for instance, even if your enemy builds fire ships, they're going to be able to blast a hole in that wall pretty fast. So having a wall across there gives you a little time, but it will come back to who has the water dominance. The person who dominates the water dominates the island. Obviously, if neither has any kind of water presence, then the person who has presence dominates the island.
Right.
But
Right.
water beats initial presence.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is where I think Tom has a pretty significant advantage in the Cray Post. The Cray Post is pretty good against troops, but it's also very good against ships. And the ability to place down a few Cray Posts in significant areas and then fight his ships under those, that could be a huge game changer if he chooses to use it.
Mm-hmm. So we do see D with an early 2-ville lead. Again, he's got more fishing ships out, although Tom is about to get his 5th fishing ship out, so they will equalize there.
Significantly, Tom does not see any of D's stuff. He doesn't see the wall, he doesn't see the dock, he doesn't see any of it.
Yeah.
D sees all of Tom's. He sees the dock and can infer the fishing ships therefrom, and he knows there's no wall across the other end of the island, so...
Yep.
So that's significant.
D getting up a lumber camp, which in the long run will help because it means he can get the tech upgrades, and that'll make his lumberjacks just that much more effective. Oh, of course.
I'm going second dock.
We were talking about the Bulgarians and what they bring to the table. Hiram, talk to us a little bit about the Poles. What do you see as their shtick?
So the big things, obviously, are the ability to mine gold via stone and basically just the excellent light cav. So they have their oh gosh, I can't remember what it's called.
The
instead of the mill.
Oh, the full work.
Yeah, the full work. I kept wanting to call it a Fatoria, and no, that's the Portuguese. No, so they've got the full work, which means their food income is faster. They process wood into food via farms faster. It means their farms expire faster, so they spend wood faster, but the overall income is increased.
Right.
That translates very nicely into light cav. The Polish light cav is also very good. It gets the winged hussar, and then they get the Poles, get an upgrade that causes their light cav to deal trample damage. So it all kind of sequences together to where you get a lot of stone and a lot of light cav, basically. While still not having to neglect the rest of your economy. What that tells me, if you're looking at the center of the island, and D does have control over it right now. He might not be able to hold it with what he has right now,
right?
But he does have control over it right now. Tom's not getting there within the next 2 to 5 minutes. It's just not going to happen. No way. So if he manages to put a town center on there, he's already got a mining camp. He's already bringing villagers. If he puts one town center, maybe 2, he can vector so many resources onto that stone, getting gold and food via the berries that are already there. Turn that into castles to protect it. And again, just like the Cray Post, castles will deal very well with ships. Until you get into Imp, it's very hard for ships to deal with a castle in any way. That could secure him the island. That could secure him effectively the game between the gold that's there and the stone that's there, translating into castles, and the naval control that will likely follow. Unless Tom contests the center, the Polish advantage, basically, the center of the hill is the road to victory. No two ways about it.
Yep, I agree with that. What do you think about the Zlakta privileges? Unique tech that make their knights so much cheaper.
I like it a lot if you're going heavy into knights. The way I've seen Poles in general, you either lean into one or you lean into the other. You either fast imp and up your light cav, or you lock the privilege and you lean into knight. Against the Bulgarians, I would probably go... I think I would actually probably lean into the light cav. Obviously, you're still going to want to spend whatever gold you can, but if you have the ability to push your gold into more knights, or push your gold into other units to support light cav, especially considering the Bulgarian unique unit, the Conic, will trade okay against a knight, especially considering...
I want to jump in here. I'm sorry. We got Tom's galleys in D's fishing eco, or I say he just sails right past. We're about to have a fight break out.
Yeah, I think he's just scouting. He's got 2 going up and 2 going down. He wants to find out where it is. I like this. He's not just shooting at the first thing he sees. He's getting a picture of the battlefield. Fire galleys into galleys themselves. Tom is trying to micro.
Yeah, but
he needs a few more galleys in order to make that work. 2v2, the fire galleys are going to win. 4v4, probably not.
Now, we did see Tom. He was the first one to feudal, and then D was behind him. I think D is possibly... It's going to be neck and neck as who gets to castle first, assuming they both click up as soon as they're able.
Yeah.
We do have fletching coming in for Tom. So, again, I think we're seeing that naval battle taking place.
I like how Tom loops his galleys up and around to rejoin the rest of his force. Again, 4v4. We're going to see it play out. First fire galley down.
And D decides to run away from this.
This is what D should do. D will not win this fight. If Tom is microing, he will lose. Now we have naval supremacy. Tom sees the wall. He sees the situation.
D has enough to go up the castle.
Yep.
So we got...
He could do it now. Tom's still a little ways away.
Oh, here we go, here we go. Yep, we are seeing naval domination from Tom here.
He stops microing. Okay, he's resuming. Yeah. I was afraid he's going to say, all right, I've basically won. You know, I can stop. That's a mistake that my galley micro falls into because, you know, it takes headspace. It takes time. But if you stop microing, you will lose to the fire galleys significantly, and that's bad.
Yeah, now D's going up to Castle Age. Tom has the resources. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Hiram.
No.
But I just want to jump in. So we've got... Okay, he just castled up, or going up to castle now, so...
He was waiting on a stable. He didn't have the 2-building minimum.
Right.
So he had the resources, but there was
and that fire galley will go down without even He didn't even fire a shot, and it's down.
Yep.
Burn, baby, burn. Wasted resources here. So D has a couple of ills over Tom, but Tom has a significant military lead here. And as you mentioned, it's not just about the fishing eco, but if your prediction holds up, whoever has control of the water will secure control of the island.
Can secure. There is a world in which the person holds control over the water and they don't tech appropriately. The person who controls the water controls all passage from island to island. He can break through the walls the other person puts up. He can prevent resupply. He can. If, on the other hand, and I'm not saying Tom's wrong doing this here. This is exactly what he should be doing right now. But if he chooses to just sail around and around and around looking for fishing ships, yeah, you can hold the water all you want, but you still are going to lose the center island. What I want to point out is, number one, I think that D is doing the right thing here. He is not relying solely on stone for his gold income. He's got people on gold as well. That's important. That's good. The second thing is he's got quite a lot on both, especially compared to Tom. And he's going to be able to get up a second town center and probably a castle pretty much immediately. Heck, he could go a third TC in a castle within the next 2 to 5 minutes.
As soon as Tom hit the Castle Age, the millisecond he hit Castle Age, he started queuing up a knight.
I think that's the right play, especially as the Bulgarians, or as any major cav civ. But you know that knight advantage is
transport ship
and
out.
A transport ship. Good for Tom. I was worried he was going to try to push through those palisades. Nah.
Here's the question.
You don't need to go through the wall.
Here's the question. Does he raid the center island, or does he go around and hit D in his base?
You know, I think he's going to go around, and I think that looking at what he's doing here, I think that's the right call. Trying to raid the center island, number one, warns your enemy. Number two, I don't know if Tom knows this or suspects this or not. He doesn't know. At least that I can tell. Let me check real quick. Yeah, he doesn't know about the TC there, but he suspects there's going to be a TC there. He should. Getting a knight, getting some scouting up, seeing what your enemy is doing over on his home base, where he is far less likely to be like digging in, is I think the right call. One knight over onto the enemy island, knight punching through or trying to punch through the palisades. He's got an idle fishing ship or a transport ship. All it takes is that transport ship to come around and move the knights. And yeah, and that's done. Probably a headspace issue though. Tom leaves those knights to hack the wall.
The water, the galleys will go down hard.
Yep, he misses it. Yep.
Oh.
And it's important to note that the fire ships have been upgraded. They're no longer fire galleys; they're full fire ships. So
right.
Tom loses dominance, but he gets through onto the center island. He gets knights raiding.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, what Tom needs to do, of course, is move around and hit all of these vulnerable villagers back here
before they can quick wall themselves in, for sure.
Yep.
I think he's
trying.
And
the relic. The relic is keeping him from going through the center.
There's a little bit of a pathing issue that's was a little bit of a pathing issue, I think. Just looking at how they were moving around.
Is that a hole? Can they go?
Two barracks coming in, and Tom moves Vils forward, or begins to move Vils forward, to try to build a castle. Now look at this. Tom dealing with the fire ships with knights. This is a good play. If you had a couple galleys, you could station them.
I don't know. He's losing knights, and I don't know that he's getting anything out of it.
He got a fire ship. I thought he got two. I could obviously be wrong.
Okay. Vil's moving forward, and they're building a castle. I am shocked he's not building a crepost.
You know, the reason to build a castle versus a crepost is a castle gets you up to imp, and no matter how many creposts you build,
Tom's learned his lesson. He's walling himself in.
Yeah,
but he's left a hole, hasn't he?
I don't know. Not only that, you know,
Vil's gonna die here.
Yeah, a lot of Vil's gonna die, and again, pikemen are good, but they're not. You know, they're not going to be able to insta kill the cav. No. The cav are still getting Vil kills. I think Tom's gonna lose them.
Yeah.
But I think the castle still goes up. It's at 56%. Knight's still streaming in. He's going to lose more than he should to these pikemen. I think he's got a gather point set, and that's going to be a problem.
Oh, no. The Vils are being ranged by the town center. They go down.
Oh, no.
Then the two on the outside. This is... Oh, no. Now, what I want to highlight, we've got all of this action going on here on the center, but while that's happening... In the background, D has up 3 town centers. Tom is working with 1 town center. Now, that's not a, how do I want to put it? There's a time and a place where 1 town center beats 3 town centers. But that means that you need to take care momentum immediately. You know, and the longer that we kind of stalemate, the better position D finds himself in.
Now, I gotta say, for all that, he has 3 times the town centers. He also has more than 3 times the idle TC time.
That's true, too. And that's why D is only up 6 Vils instead of, 20, 30, whatever. And see, this is where, as a Bulgarian player, I would have loved to have seen just a couple of infantry backing up the knights. You get the infantry there, and they kill the pikes, and now... Or at least threaten them. The pikes have to back off, and then your castle goes
And this
up.
would be where a few conics would come in pretty dang handy.
That's true too.
And to support your point, this is where, having built a crepost versus a castle, the crepost would have probably gone up. It just builds faster, and that translates to a trickle down defense a lot better. Tom moves the transport ship down. I think he's got the right idea. The villagers probably going to load up. You know, if I'm Tom, I'm looking to try to feint towards the castle. I'm already trying to get built. Maybe build a second one. I don't think anything. Yep, and that looks like what he does. I don't think there's anything Tom can really do to get that first castle up. Villagers offloaded. Pikemen see it.
But the knights are doing a good job raiding Vils, which I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And villagers go back to work on the castle. 70%.
Huh?
75%.
This is neck and neck between these 2 castles.
Oh my word. First one goes up.
What in the world is this?
That is such
97,
timing.
98, 99. Oh, unbelievable.
Get them in and shoot those Vils. Knock them down.
But at least Oh, and there's a knight. Wow, both castles go up. Unbelievable.
Number one, yes, unbelievable. Number two, I think Tom wins this for two reasons. Number one, his castle is just as strong as his opponent's. Number two, if he puts out Conics will counter. They'll trade decently with Cav, and they will absolutely decimate pikemen. So he has a single unit advantage that he can just hit home.
Yeah.
3, his castle ranges a town center.
That's true.
It's idling eco. It's forcing them to retool somewhere else.
Let me make the argument for D, though. I mean, he still has control of the majority of the island. And, you know, thanks to both castles being up, Tom actually can't take advantage of any of these resources. So it's either under D's control or it's neutral, right?
Yeah. I think... Oh, and D building petards. This is the right move.
Yeah.
We saw this in your game.
Yeah.
When castles are next to castles, build 8 petards and knock it down. There is no counterplay. So, I think D has the right idea here.
And part of what
Now,
concerns
Tom has
me-
a second TC up, and that's good. He's also got some raiding cav over in D's face. I think that's really good. He's forcing him to split his attention.
Yeah, I've not
If
been
you look at the
looking over
eco
here that much, but
KD
you're right.
If you look at the eco KD, 64 to 43, Tom is significantly ahead in the eco kill range, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, I made this. So looking at the KD, Tom is up like 20 some odd kills, but then the eco KD, it's 14 to 27. So
oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah, I made the
missed that.
same mistake in the last cast. Shout out to you viewers who caught that, but yeah, so it's double the eco KD, 14 to 28.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big reason. Oh, here are the petards.
Petards go, but he didn't. He did the same thing. He didn't realize the magic number.
Now he's still got more coming out. So
he's got a couple. Yep. Castle's now at under half strength, and target's still coming. And without murder holes, you've got Obuks and pikemen just punching it down. This is hard. At the same time, though,
bedroom ramps.
D's now having to buy food. He's got so many people. His Tom's cav are rating so well that he's feeling the food pinch.
I'm really surprised how far both players are from Imperial Age right now. Yeah, they are both committing heavily to Castle Age aggression. Battering rams, I like. Battering rams that appear to be unprotected, I don't like. That's a lot of wood and gold that could go down very quickly.
Thompson's villagers, I don't know if he's actually trying. He meant to have them attack the barracks, but they do.
Why are these battering rams attacking houses?
I don't know. I think Tom's attention's got to be elsewhere.
Yeah.
He's controlling the raiding cav on the island. He's controlling, or was controlling, raiding cav over on D's face.
The Vills are repairing the castle.
Yeah, good for that.
Zhlakta privilege is coming in for D. So we might be seeing some serious knight cavalier pressure coming in from the pole player.
Yeah. Going back to your question earlier, I like Zhlakta privileges. I use it a lot more often than I use the other, I forget what it's called, the other Polish unique tech. The one that buffs your light cav.
Yeah, yeah.
In general, though, you pick one to go with first, in my opinion. Going into both heavy and light cav at the same time is kind of one of those chase two rabbits. You either want a massive horde of light cav and run your.
Now take a look at this. We got a second castle coming in for Tom on the island. I don't quite like the positioning.
Yeah,
but it will secure at least a teal presence. You know. Well,
I do like it in the sense that it does help a lot with future naval battles. Okay, you have to remember the water is still a good resource. And if you control that strait between the left and the right side across the moat, then no amount of walling across the shallows is going to do any good whatsoever. So,
I think. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry, but
you're fine. No, yeah, go for it.
I was just saying that I think that Tom has maybe actually won this, just because I'm looking at the Eco KD, 42 eco kills. Right now he's up
Yeah.
27 villagers.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I don't know how he's pulled this off.
Well, I think he had D so focused on the island that just slipping one
Yeah.
or two knights over to just start pumping. And you said this a long time ago, and it stuck with me that when you're the Poles, you really want to lean into the full work, right?
Mhm.
Which means, unlike everybody else, your villagers are away from the town center.
Right.
They're vulnerable to raiding. If you decide to lean into the full
Right.
work, your villagers are vulnerable. You've got to have the self-control or the awareness to be like, yeah, my self-control to put them around the town center anyway, at least partially, or the awareness to understand that raiding is a severe weak point. And
right.
Tom has, I think, anticipated this, or at least stumbled into it. I also don't know that D has quite figured out that it's a transport ship or how to deal with that. You know, theoretically, one or two fire ships on the map right now would turn that whole thing around. The transport galley doesn't get across. But as long as Tom's able to ferry it across, no amount of fortification along those straits is going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think, my hat's off to D. I think he did a really good job coming up with a strategy on what was Tom's home map. I think he played it well, but you're right. The transport ship and the raiding into D's base was absolutely masterclass and swung the whole tempo of this battle. Now Tom has control. D is on the back foot. He's getting farms up, and he's still got some gold, so this is not necessarily game over, but
yeah,
I see all the momentum with Tom.
Well, I grant that all the momentum is Tom's. And I do feel like he's got control. You have to remember, lots of privileges means that while D might lose night for night, gold for gold, he's going to win.
Yeah.
And the Hussar bonus and the other, he hasn't, not an imp, so he can't get winged Hussar. Correct me if I'm wrong, you do need imp for winged Hussar.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
As well as the light cav Polish unique attack. What that means is unit for unit, D might lose, but resource for resource, he's going to win.
Yeah.
Especially if he can get to imp.
I gotta say, I called it earlier. I think Tom made exactly the right call in going with the one town center play. Now he's got two, but that really worked out for him.
I agree. And I think, his continual use of the transport ship, just ferrying across, it seems like it's throwing D for a loop, so props to him.
Yeah.
Here again, more cav go across the ocean, or across the moat, rather, and he finds exposed vills.
You know what I'm realizing? D does not have blacksmith upgrades, except for his infantry armor.
That's a good point.
And
that's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I actually did not realize that at all, but Tom here with the castle age attack, the feudal age armor, that's making a big difference, I'm sure.
I think what D needs to do here is he's got stables up. I don't see his barracks. They might have all been knocked down from the center. He needs to get barracks up, and he needs to stage pikemen around every bulwark.
Now, my concern right now is, and the rating has been, again, masterclass. It's been fantastic. But my concern is he's sent in a couple of knights here, a couple of scouts there. He's gotten some Vil kills, and then they die. And right now, D actually has the army advantage. And they're cheaper Polish knights at that.
Right.
That's got me thinking, there is a concern there. If D were to turn around and raid into the center now, he might win this.
On the other hand, Tom is up to imp. He's clicked up.
Ooh.
Big D is a side of food away from there. So... And if you look at the amount of stone they've got, D doesn't have the stone for a castle. He doesn't have it. So he's got to build other stuff to get up. He either has to sell or buy, which is what I would do. He's got the gold for it. To get some stone for a castle, or he's got to build other buildings, which are good, but they're not going to give him the immediate presence he needs now to stay alive. It's a tight situation. I have to say, I think if you're D right now, I would sacrifice, and it would be a sacrifice, a couple units. Get across and see what Tom has, because if you look, there's nothing really stopping some Cav from tracing the shore and just doing the exact same thing, raiding right back.
It's an option. And, you know, it's one of those Hail Mary plays that D probably needs right now. If, you know, he doesn't have the bird's eye view we do, but he does have the scoreboard. And he's looking at the scoreboard and he sees he's down 2,000 points. You've got to make some kind of play.
Well, and he knows he's been pushed off of the center where all the gold and all the stone is. You know, at the end of the day, the Rams load up onto the transport ship. That's if he gets some Cav on there too. Yeah, that could be big. Again, you called it though, Tom. He doesn't support his Rams. I think he might be, you know, he's going to load some people up. But in my opinion, you don't lead with the Rams. You lead with the army. I think these Rams are just going to die before any support can get to them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you got a house down.
Yeah, 3 Rams for a house. That's not a good trade.
Yep.
On the other,
Connacht's moving in.
The other thing he could have been intending as a distraction, pull the units up to deal with the Rams, and then raid attack south. But still, I don't know. And again, you have to keep in mind there's only so much headspace.
Right.
We can see all of the things, but hey, do all of these things all at once without missing a micro. Well,
right.
Now,
the Connacht force is split, and this is allowing D to, I think, get more kills than he otherwise would.
Yeah.
I think, Tom is allowing his army to kind of get chipped away here.
Yeah. D has now gotten his Castle Age Cav armor.
Yeah.
And I think this is also significant.
Yeah. Yeah. So, D will win this. D will win this fight. Now, back on the island, Tom is queuing up an awful lot of Halberdier, or I guess it's Python right now. And, if this is D's only play is to go Knights, then that might work out for Tom. But right now, in this moment, D has an army advantage.
Yeah, agreed. And again, if you push off to trace the island and go decide to attack Tom in his homeland, put him, I guess, force him to choose between maintaining presence on the island or maintaining forward advantage and saving his home base. I think that's what D should do. I don't know if he realizes it. It's easy for me to see a path because I can see the whole map, and I know D can't do that. At the same time, it's like we've mentioned in other games. If normal tactics are working, keep doing normal tactics. But when normal tactics fail, other methods are called for.
Right.
And right now, D's in the normal tactics aren't working camp.
Right.
I wonder if he thinks he's counting on his unique text to just ultimately give him a Cav advantage. I don't know.
You know what surprises me is how D does not have a market at all.
Yeah.
And he could really be using a market right now just to... There we go. He's got the resources for imp. There we go. Imperial Age coming in.
He's imping up. Good for him. Here's another thing, Tom. Good call on Tom. You can support your fight on land with galleys in a way you can't with fire galleys. Score one for the galley lovers. Keep this in mind, y'all. Galleys, not fire galleys.
Hashtag fire is lit.
Well played. Now,
Halberdier go down.
Up and in.
Sheer numbers. Halberdier are down. The Connachts will not. They're not going to win this either.
On the flip side, Tom's got a third castle up. I think he's taken way too long to get Trebs out.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. On the flip side, Trebs with nothing to defend them is just madness. So he had kept those halves in play, had a few more Trebs earlier. He could be slowly pushing in. He could be knocking down TCs and stables galore.
Trebs out, and again, making decisive work of the houses.
Tom using galleys to push D off of farms, which is, I think that's a good play.
Yep. Naval control. You gotta love it.
Yep.
Now, I really do like prioritizing the destruction of the stables, shutting down.
Yeah.
that army protection. That's fantastic. And something else that's worth noting is D hits Imp. He has no castle, right? So he's not going to be able to contest the Trebs.
Yep.
And Tom moving forward with a castle in D's base. Now he's attacking with Halberdier against, again, Castle Age Knights there. Oof. Ooh.
Yeah.
And now D has no army. D calls the GG. And well fought. Very well played by both players.
That was tight.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
awesome.
a moment in the game where I thought D had it. I really did.
Mm-hmm.
Tom pulled it out, but good game on both of them.
And something I've got to call out is, you know, the raids were so effective by Tom. EcoKD, 18 Vills killed versus 65 Vills lost. And even with that, when he calls the GG, he's only down 16 villagers.
That's incredible.
That is insane. And again, that's applause to both players. Tom for being able to raid so effectively, and then D for being able to just recover from those losses so effectively and to keep an economic, you know, what do I want to say? Like an economic, you know, parity, right?
Yeah.
Really, really well done by both. Ultimately, Tom pulling it out. And that right there is how you're supposed to play Bulgarians on Golden Hill. So I'm over here taking notes. You know, you guys should be too.
Thank you, Tom, for showing us the way, or showing Iron Kaiser the way.
Right.
I have yet to lose on this map. I just want to point that out.
Well, that's game 2. Well done, Tom. We move on to game 3. And here we are with game 3 of our series between 10-Finger Tom and D. We have, again, Hiram, I got to point this out. This is like a dark mirror of game 3 of my set against Tom.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
How does that feel to be you in this scenario?
I mean, it's striking, you know? I mean, because we have D in the red playing as the Goths. So the exact same game plan, or at least the same civ that Tom used in game 3 of our set. And Tom in the teal playing as the Magyars, not the Lithuanians, but again, a civilization that is primarily Cav-based. And so it's a really striking mirror situation here.
Yeah. If you're Tom, I think you're pretty confident because number one, you know, you just dealt with this.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, you know, not only did he win on this map in his last set, but he won as the person he's playing against. So he's got to feel like he's got at least a decent handle on what D is going to want to do.
Right. Exactly. I think first off, you often said during the Noob Cup, you know, it's really not so much about the civs as it is about the players. I think that still holds true, at least to an extent, even in a tournament like this. The psychological impact of Tom having a grasp of the map, knowing how to play Goths on a map like this, that's got to give him some insight that's going to be really helpful. On top of that, I think with the benefit of hindsight, the Magyar are a much better choice than the Lithuanians were going into the Goths. And the reason,
why do you say that?
For 2 reasons. Number one, the Lithuanian strength was to, you know, try to get relics, get into the castle age, and then your knights are really great, right? Well, for Tom, as the Magyar, their strength is about feudal age pressure with scouts. At least early on. You know, you can get that early feudal age pressure. And that's what you want to do against the Goths. You want to put on feudal age pressure. So there's a great window of opportunity. It's like the windows are aligning where Tom's power spike hits at exactly the point where, you know, the Goth player needs to be hit. Right? So that's a really nice thing, first of all.
Yeah, good point.
Second is the benefit of getting your melee attack upgrades immediately through the ages is not only helpful for a scout rush or knights, whatever you want to do, but also if you need to go, you know, men-at-arms, the militia line, right? In response to a Goth horde, well, at least half of your blacksmith requirements are already covered just because of your civilization. So I think that, you know, the Magyar are given opportunity. Not to mention, again, they also have really, really, really good cav archers, which is great if he hasn't yet got a Huskarl horde out. You could do like an infantry cav archer combo that could be really powerful. So I think the Magyar just have a lot of options where the Lithuanians, at least in my case, not to say that the Lithuanians don't have them, but I just went heavy into knights, and that ended up being a mistake. Now, what I will be fascinated to see, I saw someone on the, I think it was the forum earlier, was asking about, how do you play Goths? And I have seen, oh, look at this. Look at this horse. Tom is using his horse, which of course can't attack, but he's using the horse to block in Vils and get, Vil kills, and well, I guess nobody died, but just damage on Vils and...
That is nice. Well played.
Getting the boars out away from the town center, just causing those little inefficiencies that'll add up. That was really nice. Well played, Tom. But on the other hand, though, again, I think D is maybe gathering... I don't know the numbers, but I'm going to guess that D got more of the boar than
it looked like
Tom
that
did.
To me.
Yeah. So
like
that
5 or 6 versus like 4.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but yeah, it seemed like D got the advantage of the boar horde here on Mired. Oh no! And a Vil goes down for Tom. A little inefficiency there.
Oh,
and
man.
That gives D an eco lead.
Tom choosing to wall off early, which I respect.
I think it's the right move. Again, I kind of... Where I was going with this before I mentioned the horse and everything is people talking about, well, how do you play Goths and what are your strategies? And in my experience, I've had multiple Goth players, after my game against Tom. I have Goth players, or I should say including Tom. There's Tom and another Goth player. And
yeah.
I've seen a lot of Goth players go archers, open with archers, and then try to kind of, get... Oh no, is this another...
Oh no, come on. Okay, he sees it.
Oh,
So
there we
close.
go. Barely.
So close.
Barely.
They open with archers,
Excuse me.
you were saying.
Yeah, but they open with archers and then wait in order to go into that infantry horde. And if that's what happens, I think that might be why Tom is walling out so early and walling out in the manner that he is because he wants to protect just in case, D goes in that direction. So that's something I'm going to be looking at. I'm fascinated to see if D as another Goth player will go archers again. Does he go straight into infantry? Does he try something else? Again, my thought is if you're Tom, your hope is to get up to the fuelage quickly.
Yeah.
Did my Vil just take food from your boar?
It looked like that's what happened.
Yes.
I can't rewind, but it did look like it. And
okay, here we go.
he says, yes. Ha 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 ha.
Right. So, yeah, we have D going up to the fuelage first. Tom, a couple of seconds behind him.
That's not what Tom wanted, but...
No, and what I'm going to be keeping an eye on,
bad.
Will Tom try to get a barracks out, before he hits fuelage? If he does, I expect that he wants to do the scout rush. If he's not, especially with, D getting more of those boar. I mean, look at this. He's got... D right now has double the food in the bank that Tom does.
Yep.
Now, Tom has a lot more Vils on food. Oh, here we go. Yeah, barracks being built.
Yep.
On the way up. So, yeah, I suspect he's going to try to scout rush.
Now, the question is will Tom get his scout rush out in good time, or will he follow the path of the Kaiser?
Yeah, indeed, exactly. So, what I'm noticing, I'm going to make a prediction here. D does not have anybody on gold. So I would be surprised. Not to mention, he doesn't even have barracks out yet.
Right.
So with no barracks out, oh wow, why does Tom have a Vil all the way over in D's base?
You know, I don't know. I really don't. He's got a house there too.
Yeah, he's got this tactical house. You know, like okay, that's Just he's got an outpost and a couple of houses. That's unusual to me.
You know,
look at this. Look at how he's built a ring of houses around the lake. As if he wants to keep eyes on where, you know, D might expand out to.
You know, I actually kind of like this. You know, I've mentioned before how I'm coming to appreciate the outpost. Just being able to see, hey, they're moving out with this is a big deal. And, you know, obviously outposts see farther than houses, or do they? I'm checking that right now, but I expect they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. But even if, you know, if you've got a villager all the way over there, you might as well throw up a house versus doing nothing. You know, you can't throw up a lumber camp. You can't just throw outposts down for no reason because you've still got housing to deal with. Tom gets scouts through the wall. D doesn't get it up in time. Good for him. D has spearmen already, though, and that's going to put it back a ways.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah. I was saying I loved that Tom split his scout so that one could draw away the spearman while the other gets the Vil kill. That was really good. On the other hand, he's lost one scout. The second scout, really weak. He's got two more out on the lake, but I don't even know if he's going to raid with those.
Right.
Point being, I don't know how effective this is for him. This might have been...
He's forcing some idle time. And that's the big thing. He's gonna, he does lose the scout, but he does force a little idle time. He's got one of these Vils that was idle for, you know, a little bit. So I think that was his goal. It just didn't end up working out. And I think he's making the right call not to just keep sending scouts in. If your opponent has spears up and their villagers are concentrated, where they can just turn on 2 or 3 scouts, it's hard to raid. It's really hard.
I really like what he's done instead, which is positioned the scouts along the outside of the base, just in case that, you know, D ever decides to try to slip a Vil out and maybe claim that gold or something like that. You know, there's a chance they just get intercepted by the scouts.
Yep.
Now, I say that, but one scout has decided to attack the palisade wall. I'm going to guess that was the AI autoing that. I don't think he wanted it. No, he's trying to break in.
Promote that scout to LT. And you called it. Archers, here we go.
Wait, is he doing archers? Wow.
He's got an archer.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Tom is going archer.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
And the cool thing about that, if you have a few of them, they can keep villagers from house walling in behind it. As it is, you know, it doesn't take much for the villager to begin bolstering that position.
Now, I gotta say, D here moving up to the castle age. Tom nowhere near.
Yeah. This is going to be a rough position for Tom because once they hit castle, and especially once they hit Imperial, but castle is where the Goths really begin to get to flex over the rest of the map.
Yep. And that's the thing is, if you're playing the Magyar, I was talking about that power spike, you wanted to do some real damage in the feudal age.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if you did more damage than he did to you. You got one Vil, you got some idle time, but then you lost 2 scouts, which, even with the Magyar discount, I want to say is like 130 food, give or take.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a rough situation to be in as Tom. Again, almost like where I was in my match. I still think the Magyar have better options than the Lithuanians did. Or again, at least the way I played it. I think that you have some good options as Magyar. So I am by no means throwing in the towel here if I am Tom, but D's in a strong position right now.
Tom's clicked up. He's got a villager coming in, but he's clicked up. So, but he begins to advance right as D advances, and this is, I've got to say, the thing you want to do against scouts is keep your head and understand that your enemy had to pay something in order to put on that pressure.
Yep.
Which looks to be exactly what D has done. He's lost some stuff, but he hasn't lost his cool. He hasn't lost his head.
And two scouts go down.
Yep. He's got a second TC going up right now. He's got the Vil lead by, a couple Vils, but it's going to increase now that he's able to build more and Tom isn't. So, yeah, if you're D in a, oh, I'm sorry, Tom had the Vil lead. I'm reading that backwards. Even so, one Vil is, D's going to be able to close.
Yeah, well,
and pass.
I mean, it's even now. And, D will take the lead.
Not only because now his town center is putting out Vils, but because he's got a second TC going.
Right, and look at all those farms.
Yeah.
Yep. This is a Goth player who is hunkering down for the late game. Right now, I'm feeling like D has the advantage.
Yeah. If you're D right now, if I'm D right now, I feel pretty confident. And even with the bird's eye view, like, I'm confident if I can see what D can see. And if I've got the bird's eye view, I'm really confident.
Right. Now, what will be fascinating to me, I'm looking at Tom as he hits Castle Age. What does he decide to tech into right away? What are his...
Town center. But it's being built by one villager.
Okay.
Second town center. So he's going to 3 TC boom.
Okay.
I kind of think you have to do that at this point.
Yeah, D. I mean, again, we got bird's eye view. D only has 2 town centers. If Tom is able to go 3 TC and get up a stronger economy, that he could kind of reclaim the lead and then support war against a Goth player. But yeah, the scout went in and just got blown up. I didn't even see what killed him. He must have been weak, and a Vil just walked over and shanked him with a butter knife, But I blew it.
Shot to the heart.
Yeah. Okay, TC's producing Vils out of both town centers. Let's see. Yeah. Both players really going heavy into the eco. We don't see much focus in military in either direction.
Yeah. Now, besides some siege, I don't know what you can really do at Tom right now that is cost effective. You can't go into more scouts. You could do knights, but your enemy got up to, Castle Age first, so you got to assume he's either going to have knights or he's going to have pikes, and your knights aren't going to trade terribly effectively. So, again, if you're D, you're feeling pretty confident, and if you look at the score, you that's kind of reinforced.
Yeah, something I just checked, I tabbed into the game itself to confirm this, is Tom has not yet researched any infantry upgrades, just as far as like his militia line. And if I'm Tom, okay, he's getting out Cav Archer, which I think is a great choice for Magyar generally. They have actually some of the best Cav Archers in the game because of their Imperial Age technology. I believe it gives them extra range, if I remember correctly.
Which is huge.
It's 1 extra range and damage, I believe it is. But anyway, they have fantastic Cav Archer, right? So that's great generally, but you also need to prepare a response for Huskarl. And so I would love to see... I'd love to see him start getting the techs. Maybe not even actually pumping out the units yet, but just getting the technology for your militia line so that you have that response ready to go against the Huskarl, the pikemen,
I mean, on the flip side, well, I grant that. On the flip side, he's got his scout running all over outside the base. He's got an outpost on the east side of the base. He number one, he's going to have some warning, and number two, you've got an idea of what he's doing and when.
I hate this. I hate this. Why are you attacking now? You have revealed your plan. You know, the unit you're going into with only 3 cav archers. You're not doing any damage. You're giving away intel for nothing. Yeah.
Not only that, it looks like D has anticipated this.
Yeah, look at all those skirms.
Not just skirms, but elite skirms with fletching on the way.
Yep.
D's going back into raiding. Or not D. Tom's going back into raiding D. He gets 1 and almost 2 kills.
Oh, yeah. Now, what do you think about this castle that D's putting up in the heart of his base?
I think it's actually a good idea. Why? Number 1, you played Tom last game. You know he likes to raid.
Yes.
Okay? So basing your eco around something that can deal with a raid is not a bad idea, especially if you can get the stone. Number 2, what you want, especially if you suspect your enemy is going into archer attacks, is to be able to pump out anti-archer units safely. And it looked like he was going to go into skirm. That looked like maybe his standby. But the ability to pump out Huskarls safely, now granted you can do it out of the barracks later, but not initially. A safe castle's not a bad idea. On the flip side, if you're going to do that, you need to have an awareness of what your enemy is doing outside your base, and he doesn't have that. Tom's found a safe location to put up a castle of his own, and I think it's going to go up.
I really love this idea from Tom of trying to hedge D in. You know, he wants to keep him from being able to expand and rabbit about on the map. He wants to lock D in exactly where he is. I don't know if it'll pay off or not, but I love the strategy there. The idea is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, something that I want to add on, because right now I feel like D has the advantage. Tom does have a better economy right now. He's had 3 town centers up longer than D has. But right now, D has a significant military lead. But something that's surprising me is he's only now getting his blacksmith upgrades. And I'm really surprised by that. He was floating wood and gold earlier. I'm surprised he didn't get up the infantry upgrades. You know, he's got a significant number of skirms. Here we go. Yeah, there's the Castle Age archer deck. So, yeah, I'll say, even though I was surprised he didn't get earlier, it appears to me that he's getting it right at the moment he needs it. So, you know, good for him.
Now, we have Tom clicking up to Imp. And that's huge. If he gets to Imp first, that's huge. Number 2, he's researching Corvinian army. What does that do? I forget.
Corvinian army. Let me think. That is the one.
That's a unique tech.
Yes, I'm going to pull that up right now, because...
While you're doing that, I'm going to comment here.
Oh, of course.
Tom had a decent number of cav archers. He just lost a bunch. He took a fight that was just not a good fight, and now he's being peppered the whole way out. He might get hemmed in. Loses 1 on the way out, maybe more. Just looking at the sheer numbers on the map, 52 army for Big D versus 5 for Tom. If D moves in now, he wins.
Yeah, no, imagine if you had replaced those, you know, whatever it is, the 10, 15 heavy cav archer that you bought. Replace them with, I don't know the numbers, 25 infantry. You throw on a Castle Age armor and your Magyar, so you get the attack upgrades right out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
So that would have been so much more effective at even just scaring D off.
Yeah.
Having said that, and real quick, I'm going to tell you, Corvinian army is the Magyar Hussar, costs no gold. Okay. So that's one of my favorite techs in the game. I'm shocked I didn't know that already.
Yeah.
But Tom, teching up to Imperial Age, D has the resources he's not even begun to tech up yet. So, again, Tom has a better economy. He has a better technological situation. The question will be, what can he do with it? Defensive
the other thing I want to
up.
point out, not only does Tom have no army, he has no houses. He could have, it's going to be a minute or 2 before he's really able to pump anything out significantly.
Look at the southern bay, the castle here that Tom has, and he's housed. But he's got in 7 Magyar Hussar and Petards coming out on top of that.
Okay, so he's probably going to try to blow a hole in the wall and raid hardcore. This is why I think that the defensive castle for Big D is such a good idea. Tom's putting a lot of hope that he's going to get a lot of kills here, and that castle means he's just not, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Moving back up to the northern fight, however, you know, D can just break in and take what he wants.
That's right. I don't. There's nothing stopping the Goths from just sacking Rome. Yeah, so he's going on the counterattack.
Good, good for him. But again, you're not going to do with 7 hussars. You're not going to do anything approaching what D is going to be able to do with 30 long swordsmen, 5 rams, and a pretty solid contingent of skirmishers too.
It almost feels like an inverse of game 1 or game 2 of the last game, where Tom wants to go raiding and get a lot of kills and turn the game around that way, but D learned his lesson. That's why he's got that castle in the heart of his base, and now there's no center island stopping his army from just marching right in.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is over.
Yeah, I don't see. I think Tom's out of airspeed, altitude, and good ideas. At least I would be in his shoes. Yeah. I mean, looking at the villagers on the board, you could delete the whole army. The eco lead is gone.
Yeah.
D's got the eco lead.
Yeah.
And again, a big one, and I'm coming to find this to be true in more and more games, is housing. The ability to pump out, another 50 guys as soon as you've got the resources, versus being able to pump out 2 and then having to build 10 houses because, you just don't have the pop room. Especially on a spam situation like the Goths are in, or against the Goths.
There's something kind of cathartic for me personally. After having Tom, show me up with the Bulgarians last match, there's something kind of cathartic about having him, deal with the Goths and realize.
Doesn't feel good, does it?
Yeah, exactly. How do you like that, Tom? Huh? Not so easy, is it, huh, Tom?
Nobody likes the Goths, let's be real.
Yeah, no.
Nobody sees the Goths, queued up against him and goes, oh yeah, I can deal with that. That's fun. I like that a lot.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there are people that way, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, where I think Tom's done a great job putting a lot of castles out, and he's going heavy into the Magyar Hussar, which is nice. They don't require any gold, so it's all food. But of course, if you have a Goth opponent going heavy into pikemen...
Now, let's turn that around for just a sec.
This is also feeling familiar.
Yeah.
Tom's got Trebs out, but there's nothing defending these Trebs.
Except for a castle, and that's not going to do much. That castle's probably going to go down. He's got a bunch of people defending it, but...
Anarchy coming in.
Oh, so close. But in the end...
Oh, never mind. No anarchy. Order is restored as the castle goes down. Yeah.
On the flip side, I think that's enough to knock down the castle without siege. I really do.
Wait. Say that again?
I think D has enough to knock down Tom's castle.
Oh, yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Yeah. I thought you were going to say that it was worth it for Tom to get those Trebs out, destroy down that center castle, and lose the Trebs and the castle and everything else.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it bought him a little extra time. And he's got Magyar Hussars on Big D's Northern TC, so he's trying to do some raiding.
Yeah.
He's going to lose a castle for a castle. So I think he's going to, in this fight, I think it's pretty close to a wash. He also loses 3 Trebs, but Big D loses a couple units. More importantly, he loses the initiative. Yeah. Now Tom has time to build a couple stuff and get some space in the back line. He lost 1 TC and he lost some military buildings, but he didn't lose much more than that. Not much.
Notice the Magyar Hussar positioned over to the west, kind of ready to raid at any moment.
Yeah, I see that.
He's continuing to try to apply pressure where D isn't.
But look what he did. He stages, 10 or 15 guys. Looks like 2-handed swordsmen and pikemen next to that town center.
Yep.
Just you try raiding that again, Tom. It ain't gonna go so good.
Yeah.
So especially if they're stanced appropriately. Tom's got another castle up, covering his southern approach. He gets 1 or 2 kills, 3 kills. Yeah, so he's gonna deal with a few guys, but again, Just look at the sheer number of military presence on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at the eco behind it. He's got more eco. He's got more military. He's got the initiative.
Oh, here we go. Wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong player. D getting up chainmail armor and champion. So going heavy, of course, into infantry.
Yep,
That's not surprising.
Into infantry. And I like this. He's going into champion, not necessarily into the... a lot of Goth players will just go Huskarl, because that's what you do as the Goths, right? You're immune to castles, immune to town centers. Why the heck not? Well, because Huskarls are easy to counter with infantry. Goth infantry, on the other hand, again, kind of like the inverse of last game. Well, actually, no, the same as last game. Big D, he might lose 1 for 1 and still come out ahead just because they're cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I'm impressed, and I find it an interesting strategic choice that rather than go Huskarl, and he was researching Anarchy earlier. Maybe that's why he hasn't gone Huskarl, is because he lost the castle and he didn't get Anarchy up, so But he's decided to stick with skirms and then just go heavy into infantry instead of going Huskarl. Oh. If you're raiding, I wish he had moved over and just sniped that Treb. That would have been a good move for the Magyar Hussar, because of course Magyar Hussar get a bonus against siege weapons. Boom. Take a look at the east. Both players have town centers that they want to construct right next to each other.
Brilliant.
Stone walls from Tom.
And Tom is just grabbed his second relic. I want to point that out. I don't think it'll be enough, but it's worth pointing out.
Yep.
On the flip side, champions and halbs aren't going to do much against an archer horde or a cav archer horde.
Yeah, you need the skirms.
Then again, Tom stopped microing.
Oh no! What is this? What is this?
Of guys.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, I'm
he
noticing.
Had a cav archer, but he doesn't anymore. That's hard. I know it's hard.
Yep.
But if you're gonna cav, you got to be able to micro, or you will lose them.
Scarl are coming out now as Anarchy is being researched.
Yep. In my opinion, I don't think Tom really has an option here. I mean, there's always a chance you pull something out.
Yeah.
But again, looking at the eco, looking at the military, looking at the positioning, and understanding that once you get to imp, the Goths, if you're trading man for man, the Goths are winning.
Right. I mean, do you have to say anything more than D having 30 more vills and 80 more military?
No, I don't think so.
This is one of those scenarios where, like I said during the Noob Cup, exactly, if you deleted the militaries right now, D still has such a significant advantage, he probably wins it. Add on to that the fact that he has 10 times the military size that Tom does. It's a tough position
Well, and
to
not
be in
only that,
if you're Tom.
Tom is really just teching into units that are easily countered by trash. You know, the Cav Archer were being taken by skirms. It just worked. We got the skirms up first, and the Cav Archers have struggled to catch up since.
Yep.
The Magyar Hussar, they're a good unit, but they're easily countered by the Halbs. And the Champs. And pretty much anything else D is currently throwing at him, so... You know, the Trebs are there. The Trebs are going to keep doing Treb things. I don't see a way for Tom to knock them down, and Yep. And Tom says, my base.
My base, yeah. Rest in peace, town centers. Yeah, there's the GG.
Behold ye people, this is what Goths do.
Indeed. There you go. Okay, game 3 in the bag. D doing a great job of classic traditional Goth play. You know, something that stood out to me is he didn't go for an Archer Rush, which is what I've been seeing. He played it, I think, pretty standard for how a Goth player would play. And, yeah, just did a great job of taking, again, kind of like his game 1 win, taking small victories over Tom and snowballing that into a bigger and bigger and bigger advantage until he wins game 3. Let's move on to game 4. And here we are, game 4. We have D in the red playing as the Vikings against Tom in the teal. Hiram, do you call it teal or cyan?
Technically, it's cyan, I think, but I think I use teal. If for no other reason, it's a single syllable. It's faster.
That's true. That's true. Well, we have Tom in whatever color you want to call that, playing as the Britons. Vikings versus Britons, a very historical matchup here. And we're playing on a new map for my Wandering Squires Cup experience, Graupel. And this one's pretty interesting. Wait, no. I take that back. No, I was because that's not new. This is where I got beat by that Fede Almanco.
Yeah.
In with his Indian scout play.
Right.
Right. I knew this map looked vaguely familiar. Yeah. So
now I want to point out, just like in that map, Big D has dropped off his vills and has immediately gone around the map with his fishing with his transport ship, picking up sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Tom doesn't look like he has.
I don't know about that. He seems. Not only is he doing that,
nope,
he's doing it, and he's picking up the sheep along the way to bring them.
Now that's brilliant.
I love
like
that
a lot.
Yeah, that's a new one for me.
See, all I saw was the ship on the map. I didn't see any sheep.
Right.
That's brilliant. Well done, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stealing that.
Yeah, that one is kind of worth keeping in your back pocket if you ever play on a map like this. So here we go. We've got... Okay, Tom has his town center up first. And D is a little bit behind. So that's going to give Tom an early eco advantage.
Not only that, Tom is choosing to push his guys immediately over into wood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what... Oh, yep. D is doing the same thing.
Yep.
This is the meta start. I like seeing it on both players. This is what you do on Nomad maps.
Right. This map, I was going to say, seems a lot like Mired in that it doesn't seem like there's any one particular area of the map that is, again, something like Golden Hill, where there's a kind of a central point you want to control.
Right.
Or even Nomad, where oftentimes there can be critical choke points. Here, it's just, again, like Mired, kind of a general ring with resources spread throughout the map. But the main difference being that there is this naval component that can, of course, make or break your game.
Yep.
Both players focusing on their fishing eco out of the gate.
Which is good. Although, as you pointed out back on in your series here, there is fish in this lake, but there's not a lot of fish in this lake.
Right. And both of us can take advantage of that. You don't have to be the Indians in order to make good use of, the lakes, the shorefish eco.
Yep.
It's a very strong opportunity, and I would give lots of win probability to the Civ that decides to take advantage of them. But of course, it does help when you are Indians. You can just gather them that much faster.
For those of you who care, within the lakes on the map right now, there are 85 sections of shorefish.
Nice.
Each one containing, let's see here, each one containing 200 food. So you can do the math if you like, but anybody can tell without doing any math at all, that's a lot of food, Tony.
Well, let's see. That's 8 times 200 would be 1,600, and then 1,600 times 10. So you got 16,000, and then you have the extra 5. What is it? 85. So 5. So yeah, it's an awful lot of fish there, Hiram. It's an awful lot of fish. Again, Tom with a good, strong eco lead. Now, and we are in a situation, this is a best of 5. D has won 2 games. So if he pulls off the win on this map, D's won the set. Good game, well played. But right now, Tom's got an early eco lead. I'm curious to see if this game goes into the late game. Who do you favor here? Like the Vikings or the Britons?
If it gets into the late game, I favor the Britons.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think when you consider the kind of units the Vikings are good at, the kind of gameplay they would typically want to play, and you compare it to what the Britons can put out, I think that the Britons probably pull it off.
Not only, I mean, you know, I think that Warwolf is an incredibly underrated tech, at least in my elo, and even up to 1200, 1250 games that I've spectated. A player who can use Warwolf can kill a lot of units. So I think it's underrated. A longbow horde is hard to deal with, even if, you know, a lot of the solutions are, hey, you know, use rams and hope that the enemy isn't manually targeting, which does work, but that only works so far. And the Britons have a very balanced military. They get respectable cav. They get respectable infantry. They get amazing archers. Their navy's not bad either. So I think the Vikings are that way too. They're pretty decently rounded. They can do a lot of things pretty well. But, you know, a long-ranged civ that can do a lot of things well versus a civ that has to close, at least to a degree. I favor the Britons in that. Not only that, especially on a nomad map, the ability to get future town centers out with less wood is big. Especially on a map like this where the resources aren't kind of clustered, they're spread around, so you're going to want to build a lot of TCs, or at least a lot of resource collection zones. So yeah.
I'm noting Tom, first one up to feudal age. D is working on it. He is in the lakes. Now, is Tom... Tom is not taking advantage of the lakes. Yeah. D is. So, I'll keep an eye on that. That may be a move of necessity. But if we see it as a long-term situation where D does use the lakes and Tom doesn't, that could give D a pretty significant advantage.
Just for you guys who cared about the math back there, I did it. 17,500 food. That's a lot of food.
That is a lot of food. And something that I really don't like, I gotta call this out. I don't like that Tom is not producing more fishing ships as he's teching up to the next stage. Because again, like I've said before, I consider the dock kind of a mini second town center. Yeah. You know, and it can provide you an incredible eco lead if you're taking constant advantage of it. He may be saving the wood in order to kind of gear up for the naval fight, in which case I can respect it. And he is queuing up fire galleys immediately. And the other thing, now that's its own departure. That is a departure. He is the galley guy. Now he's going fire galley. Especially because D, as the Vikings, cannot produce fire ships. He has to wait to the castle age where he can produce his longboats. But, you know, if he gets shut down, you know, in the Navy hard enough, that's going to be a pretty big bonus for Tom. I have to say, here's a good reason for going fire galleys on this map. Okay. Like we said before, there is only so much food in the central lake. It's there, but it's not like the almost unlimited supply of food that it is on a lot of other nomads. Most of the food in the water is inaccessible. So if you're only going to produce a couple ships, try to disrupt an enemy's eco, but not necessarily dominate the water now, fire galleys is the right call. So D is now getting galleys out. This is going to be fat. If I were D, what I would do... I don't know that you can save these ships with only 2 galleys. Oh, he canceled the builds. He's just surrendering the water. Yeah. With 2 galleys, again, 2 fire galleys will beat 2 regular galleys. 4 galleys will beat 4 fire galleys, though. Yeah. So if you're going to commit to the water, you want galleys. I think this is... If you want to just raid... Now, we have the benefit of hindsight. I'm wondering if Tom is not overcommitting, but... Because he's getting 6 fire galleys in total here. Yeah. But he is certainly ensuring that he has center water control. Yeah. Do you know if the Britons get access to Bombard Galley? Bombard Cannon Galleon? I think they do. I don't know off of the top of my head, but I think they do. Let me check that, actually. They certainly get the normal Bombard Cannon. Let's see. Britons. They do get Cannon Galleon. They don't get Heavy Cannon Galleon. Yeah. No, but I foresee a possibility. So far. Go ahead. I was just say I foresee a possibility where if Tom has total control, that, kind of like with game 2, Tom could turn that water control into pressure on land, whether that's with galleys or cannon galleons or what have you.
Now, while I grant that point, again, if you look at how the resources are clustered, yes, most of the gold favors towards the center. But if a player's taking advantage of the food, a lot of what you're going to build in this map trends towards the edge. And in that sense, no, you can only do so much with central navy.
Well, I just mean, even if it's army versus army fight, and you're able to lure army to the center and your navy comes into play. Whoa, wait a minute, what is this? Tom is bringing 2 vills over to D's base.
Yay?
What are they? He's popping down archery ranges. This is a forward archery range.
I think this is a good idea.
This is fantastic. Tom has the resources to go castle. Right now, if he wants.
Now,
there it is.
Here's another reason this is a good idea. Number one, Big D doesn't know where Tom is. He hasn't explored it. He can't have. He doesn't have the scout.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's not a knock against him. It's just, again, you can only explore what you've seen.
Yep.
So if Tom starts putting out archers from his base and then walking them over, those can be spotted by a ship, like a transport ship or anything really, and you get an idea of where the base is. 2, you have to build them and then walk them. That takes time. If you're going to roll up on the enemy, though, build 2 archery ranges and then just push up straight from where you're at. Number 1, you're going to be faster. And number 2, Big D still has no idea where you're at. He has to deal with the forward base, and then he has to hunt you down.
Yeah. Which do you think is more likely when Tom goes to Castle Age? Is he going to prioritize crossbow and the army aspect, or is he going to throw down a 2nd or a 3rd town center?
That depends on how the attack goes. Considering how well it's going, I think he's going to pump out archers. At least that's what I would do.
Oh, look, it's just... Does Tom even have an archery range yet? He's putting one up
Tom?
now.
Yes.
I'm sorry, not Tom. D. D's only putting one up now.
Now, I appreciate Tom waiting. That's good. I would have liked to see potentially a little aggression around that wall. He could have maybe disrupted the...
Crossbow in.
Yep. There it is. As soon as it hits.
Yep. Also, we have the Castle Age Bodkin arrow, Castle Age archer attack coming in. So, if crossbows, kind of like how knights can absolutely wipe the floor with spearmen, crossbows can do a very good job against, skirmishers, feudal age skirmishers with no upgrades versus crossbows with Castle Age upgrades.
Yep.
This is a critical moment right here.
Yeah.
D's already behind in Vill count. The army is behind.
Yeah. This is a tough position for D. Tom he utterly owns the military. 16 to zip. So no contest there. He has a pretty significant advantage when it comes to Vills. He got to Castle Age first. He got the techs in. What do you do if you're D? There's not much you can. Those crossbows will outrange the town center. And, maybe you could throw down another town center and try to get a secondary eco going. But guess what? The crossbows will outrange that one too. So if he stations a few crossbows, hits stand ground around the town center, all of D's eco becomes immediately idled, and there's not much he can do. He can, of course, build skirms, and it looks like he is. He's got a 2nd archery range in the back. But like you said, skirms only get you so far.
Right.
And
of course,
there are 5 vills constantly idled, no 2nd TC in the works, and no more vills being built.
And the frustrating thing, of course, is skirmishers cost food as well as wood. So it feels like you're slowing down your economy with every skirmisher you produce.
And you are.
And archers, they cost wood and gold, so you still have plenty of food to pump out more vills. As we see Tom producing a 2nd town center, so that small eco advantage is snowballing into a big eco advantage. We see a mangonel out now, which is deadly to skirmishers if you get a good shot off.
Stepping away for a sec, I'll be right back.
D is in a rough situation here. We see Tom moving the archers around to try to... He's trying to get Vil kills, but then also just keep D on his toes. Just shut down his economy here, there. Wow, look at this. Yeah, moving into... Ooh, this could be a moment. Here we go. Now, D just did get the Feudal Age Archer Armor, which will help. I think at this point, Tom probably would win this fight, but it'd be a Pyrrhic victory. This is not a fight Tom wants to take. What would be great is if he had a knight or 2 knights, or again, if he had mangonels in position. One thing that I would love to see, if I were Tom, I'd want to see his army together with his mangonel, just making sure.
Yeah, I agree
that they're safe.
And I take a little issue with the attacking of the archery range. I understand the principle of destroy the military buildings.
Yeah.
But on a map like this, you never know if you've gotten all the military buildings. It's better to hit a town center, knock out eco, because it's pretty easy to replace in a nomad map. It's pretty easy to replace a town center. Meanwhile, his archers, his crossbowmen kind of, he brings up the mangonels to deal with the skirmishers. That's a little bit of a counterplay there. He tries to predict where the skirmishers are going, manually attacks ground, and they miss. They don't hit anything. Whereas if he had just done the noob thing and right-click attacked, it would have killed a lot of them. Ah, well. Check this out. He's trying to get up his second TC, and Tom just stations 4 crossbowmen next to it. He gets Vil kill after Vil kill there. Loses 4 crossbowmen, but still. Now, Kaiser, if you were Tom, where would you be positioning your crossbowmen?
Oh, I was muted again. How long have I been muted? Good heavens.
Ever since I started talking, so...
Dang it, man. I was on a roll, had some great commentary going. But, yeah, I was just mentioning, like, Tom is up 20 Vils. He has the military advantage on top of that. This is a rough situation to be in if you are our Viking player.
I want to give credit, though. He's gotten 3 TCs up.
Mm-hmm.
He's done that.
Yes, yeah.
And he's forcing Tom off of some of the gold he claimed, so now Tom has the ability to then turn directly on that TC, but the momentum, I won't say it's shifting, but it's not completely one-sided either. There is some counterplay going on.
Yeah, no, I don't think D has given up this game at all, but this is certainly an advantage for Tom here.
Now, I think not the biggest, not the biggest, but I think something that's really hard that Big D has to deal with is he could probably do a lot just watching his plays. He's got headspace to do more. He's out of resources. He has no stone. He has very little gold, and he has almost no food or wood. So even if you know what the play is, well, you got to have resources to do it, you know?
Yeah. Here we go. The first town center, I think it's going to go down. I don't see...
I think D has abandoned it, and there it is.
D has abandoned everything here, yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me. He's just so significantly down. If you look at the scoreboard, he's down 1,500 points.
Yeah.
Tom just taking an early and significant lead. I think that claiming the water early was good, then moving the villagers over with that forward archery range paid off in spades.
Yeah.
The timing was perfect.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Yeah. That's a hard situation to be in if you are the Vikings. That means we are at a tiebreaker, final game, best of 5 coming up here. Game 5, 10 Finger Tom versus Big D. And here we are with the final match between 10 Finger Tom and Big D. We are on Inundation. Now, this is a new map for me. I've not seen this one in my Wandering Squires Cup experience yet. And we have interesting difference of strategy here. We have Tom building a town center in the center of the map. He's got Ibex. He's got gold. He does not have any wood, so he's going to need to build a lumber camp way out on the edges. And that can be a little dangerous.
Not only that, I wonder if he knows. Like,
really
look at what he sees.
That's true. And, this
He
is...
might not realize just how far he has to go to get wood.
Possibly. On the other hand...
He's got his horse, he's got his sheep, he knows.
Yeah. So, on the other hand, it is true that I have seen competing approaches to this map. And we are seeing that with both players. Tom deciding to, build the town center in the center of the map. It's almost like Catan. Hiram, when you play Settlers of Catan, sometimes you can build your early cities down on the wood and the clay, and those resources are really useful in the early game. Other times you want to build it on the stone and the wheat, and they might not be as useful early, but way more useful later on.
Yep.
Tom building here on the gold, in the long run, the fight is going to be over all the gold here in the center.
Right.
But it does cause some difficulties and some vulnerabilities early on. D, playing the Byzantines, has elected to build his town center on the edge of the map, which means his early game will be much more secure and probably a little bit smoother, I would guess. But it means he's going to have to take extra steps to collect and secure gold into the mid-late game.
Right. Now, I've got to say, even if you're going to do the fringe build, you want your TC to be a little farther from the edge than that. You've cut off a lot of line of travel, a lot of efficiency there. If you build it, 4 grid squares up closer towards that bore in between the 2 wood lines, you're still close to wood. You still got access to that stone. Still got everything, all the resources close to it, and you can ultimately build around the whole thing. As it is, it's pretty easy to corner all your vills. So if you're going to fringe build,
I agree with that.
You still want it to be efficient.
Oh, I feel your pain there, D, as 2 sheep get killed at once.
Now, speaking of sheep, D's done a pretty good job, in spite of doing a fringe build, of grabbing sheep from, around the map. So good for him.
Yeah, so Tom has 4, 5... I'm counting 5 sheep. And here I see him now sending lumberjacks to begin collecting wood.
And 2 of those sheep were gathered by Big D. He walked them by the town center and they got taken.
So what that means is, let me see here. D, I guess he doesn't actually see anything, but his sheep were intercepted, so he knows where the sheep were lost. Yeah. He may have an idea of where he is. Tom, on the other hand, has no idea where Big D is. So pretty even situation right now. Eco is neck and neck. What if D realizes that Tom has built in the center? And that's a big if. But if D realizes, then what I would be thinking immediately, I don't care if I'm Byzantines, what I would be thinking is get to feudal age, get some scouts out, and see if you can find that lumber camp and just shut down his economy before he can even get started rolling.
Push off his wood. By the same token, though, it's not hard to wall in a pretty sizable section of lumber on this map. Not hard at all.
That's true. That is true.
So if you put all those resources into finding a lumber camp that you have no reason to believe is exposed, it could pay out. It could cost you a lot.
Well, even if you walls, though, you can force a lot of idle time, and I mean, you can small wall on Arabia, but it's still a good idea to try to scout rush.
Well, that's fair.
I feel like with these villas being so far removed from the town center, there's just that extra layer of vulnerability that makes the possibilities so tempting.
If that's the case, though, if that's your plan, find his woodline with your scout. You have a horse. He can't attack, but you can find a woodline. Don't, at this point in the game, when you reach about the 8.5 minute is when you ought to be planning, as far as I know. Again, I'm no expert. I'm only a 900, 950 ELO player. Around 8.5 is when you figure out what your enemy's up to and what you want to do about it. So if you're planning scout rush, find a woodline with your scout. And if you can't, make a different plan.
Look at all those sheep.
Yeah.
D here with 12 sheep. Right now, that's not counting the ones he's already harvested. That's impressive. I mean, Tom still has sheep going too, and he's got all that ibex.
Yeah, he's got the ibex, and he's pulled a couple boar.
Yeah.
So it's not quite a linear comparison, but
Yeah, I guess in the short term, Tom will probably have more food just because of the faster boar collection.
yeah. Speaking of which, I just want to make and here it is. We have Big D finding an unprotected woodline. Now that he's seen that, and he has,
and he sees that it is unprotected.
Exactly so. I would definitely be going scouts. Anyway, just want to shout out to the symmetry and the propriety of a Saracens v Byzantines match. There's just little things. It's the little things you treasure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did just have Vikings versus Britons, and now we have Saracens versus Byzantines. Yeah.
I love the symmetry of this. Of course, me being who I am, I'm going to be very sad if the Byzantines lose because everyone knows they should have won.
So, your team Constantinople, I see.
I am definitely on the Constantinople, not Istanbul side of things.
Right. Yeah, now if only it were Byzantines versus Turks, right?
Yeah, exactly. But since it's Byzantines versus Saracens, they have a chance. Okay.
Right. Now here we see D building his first mining camp. So kind of having to do the inverse of Tom, where now we have this forward vulnerable situation as he's going to try to start claiming gold. And Tom has presented a similar opportunity. If he were to realize...
Interruption real quick. Tom is trying to lure a boar from very far away, and I think he's going to lose his bill.
Oh, no. Run for your life. Oh, there it goes.
I don't care who you are.
Yep.
Seeing somebody else lose a vill to a boar, it just hurts.
And that's actually the second vill that Tom has lost, according to this. I didn't see the previous one, but I'm guessing he lost a second vill to a boar.
Yeah. Now, look at what Tom is doing. He's walling in, not just his wood line. He's walling in that entire corner of the map.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yep. There's a hole so far up in the northeastern corner that could be just slipped. But it's as it is, he's not just protecting his wood line.
Yeah.
Tech issue, give me a sec.
Sure. So we have Tom electing to go archers first. And D has... Now, of course, he hasn't hit Castle Edge yet. He has the stronger economy. It's pretty impressive that even though Tom has hit Feudal Age first, D's still going to be coming out of it with the stronger economy. With that stronger eco, though, he has yet to have any military on the field. Right. So the question will be, in kind of a repeat of the last game, will D have a military presence to withstand perhaps some early archer pressure from Tom?
No, of course, the Byzantines, they have a much easier time dealing with archers than a lot of other civs.
Yeah.
So there's that to consider.
Right.
But Tom is...
You've got to love that as a Byzantine player.
As a what?
As a Byzantine player. You just have to love the ability to get out counter units quickly.
I do, though, especially because, I don't mind losing to a player who plays better than me, but I've told you before, I hate losing to people like the Franks, the Britons, the Goths, because you know exactly what they're going to do. And sometimes it just feels like it doesn't matter how much you know what they're going to do. It's going to happen, and you can't stop it.
Right.
So, as a Byzantine, come at me, bro.
Right. So, he has elected to go double stable and is pumping scouts out of both stables. This is an all-in feudal play. I like it. I, for one, it's dangerous because it's a lot of food. And even though it's less food, it's less food as a Byzantine player, but it's still a lot of food. And
while I grant that, it's still, this is when you want to make a play like that.
Yeah.
You don't in the feudal age, you can afford to fight with I don't want to call them trash because in the feudal age they're kind of not. I mean, they are.
I mean, yeah, food is more valuable than gold in the feudal age. But
but the ability to, to pressure all sections of the map before hardcore counters can come out. He's already gotten several archer kills, which, yes, granted, Tom can just mine the gold to replace them. And it seems he can mine the wood too. He's walled his section in pretty effectively. I still think it's the right play. Men-at-Arms coming in for D. I don't quite know how I feel about this. Partially because, if you're going to tech into Men-at-Arms, okay, that's good if you want to flush, if you want to do something, do something with his Men-at-Arms, but Tom has already shown that he's going archers, and archers is kind of a solid counter to Men-at-Arms, especially if you're willing to micro them. So
I keep muting myself to try to minimize my coughing and on record, and then not. I think I'm clicking the button, but it's not, actually taking me off mute.
I suspected that was the problem, and so I'm just gonna monologue if I don't hear you.
I appreciate that. That's totally what you should do anyway. But the thing that I don't like about D's scout play, which I'm enjoying so far, and I really like it, good moves, but I don't like how he has not really gotten a lot of Vil kills. He's not put a lot of economic pressure on with these scouts. I don't like him going back and going into the Men-at-Arms. I understand why. He probably wants to counter pikemen or spearmen. But, he needs to actually be getting kills with these scouts, and he seems to be playing this too defensively.
And here's the thing that I don't understand. He scouted that wood line. I don't know if he just, he tasked his scout over there and didn't quite see it, but he scouted it. He hasn't been back. And if you know your enemy is on the center island, especially if this is your home map, and correct me if I'm wrong, it is his home map.
This is D's home map, yep.
You know that he has to have a wood line somewhere on the fringe.
These villagers could fight the spearmen. Just turn the villas and fight the spearmen, and then get the scouts onto the archers.
Yeah.
This is oof. Yep.
He does fight the spearmen with vills.
Not really. I mean, most of those going back to the tower.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. That was a mistake.
Yeah, that was definitely a mistake. Going back to what I was saying, you have the same 6 scouts. Go up, find the wood line. It has to be somewhere. You've already built it. Find the wood line. Even though he's walled it in, 6 scouts can knock down a palisade pretty fast. Faster than he can react, especially with the area that Tom is walled in. Villagers aren't right there to repair or to house wall behind it. So
exactly,
if he knocks in, kills all the villagers back there, and he could with 6 scouts.
Yep.
Well, now what, Tom?
Exactly. You shut down his wood economy, and incidentally, probably shut down his stone too. And now
he's got
archers,
gold,
you can't.
And that's it.
Yeah. Tom's now in the castle age. D is struggling to get up to castle.
Yeah.
And
I think it's going to work out for Tom. Now he can put up another town center back behind the walls he has in his northern corner. And, then it's not going to be raidable by Cav. There's also, there's berries, there's wood, there's food, there's stone. There's no gold, but hey, he doesn't need gold. He started on gold. So if you're Tom, and even
battering
looking
rams
at the
coming
scoreboard, I think battering rams is a good play, especially considering the tower.
My general theory, and I don't know what the pros say and that kind of thing, but kind of the current running theory in my head is if you're going to go archers, you probably want to go mangonel, because you want that as a possible response to skirmishers.
Yeah.
But if you're going knights, you probably want battering rams, because knights, if you send the battering rams into the town center, knights do a much better job of, protecting those battering rams from vills that might ungarrison and try to kill the rams, right?
Yeah.
It just seems to me, now you can do good things with crossbows and battering rams, especially if you have the rams in front of like an archer versus archer fight.
Yeah.
But I think I would rather see an onager than a battering ram.
I kind of agree with you.
I think he canceled it.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you. You know, I think, like you said, there are exceptions to that rule.
Yeah.
And, but in general, I think you're right that a mangonel synergizes much better with with an archer horde than a battering ram. I remember one of the first times I watched like real AoE, like a game. And this was before the DE days.
Yeah.
I don't even remember who it was. I don't think it was any of the current pros. It could have been, but I remember they had like a light Hispanic accent, so that's all I remember. Anyway, one of the things he talked about, he spent like 10 minutes developing mangonel theory about how a player with 2 mangonels was better than a player with 1, and you know, 1 mangonel is the difference between loss and victory. And I just remember being like, oh, it can't be that important. And then I watched the game as 1 mangonel defended his entire town against an archer horde.
Right.
There was micro and all sorts of other stuff at play.
Right.
So
that's the thing about siege units, is they seem to be, other than kind of monks and their conversions and that sort of thing, but really siege units are the one kind of unit in the game where a well-placed shot will blow up half an army. You know, 1 unit can take out 20.
Yeah.
There's really there really are no other units in Age of Empires that can do that. Everything else trades more or less on a 1-to-1 scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're exactly right.
And I guess where I'm going with that is, no matter how good you are with a ram will never do that.
Yeah.
You'll never be able to defend your entire town with a ram.
That's true. Now, again, something that I have yet to see, but I've heard about, it's going to be one of those things that I'm sure I'll run into one of these days, is the force multiplier aspect of a ram, being able to absorb so much, you know, arrow damage that an archer army that would lose wins instead.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of potential there, but yeah. Point is, I agree with you, though, that I think more often than not, the mangonel's the better choice.
We've got a castle coming in for Ten Finger Tom, and we've got elite skirmisher coming in for Big D.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that you run into in AoE, and you've mentioned this before in the tech switching and being inside your enemy's head, is the OODA loop. Yeah. And I think this is a reflection of your enemy being inside your OODA loop.
Do you want to explain real quick? Because I think most of our audience would not know what an OODA loop is. What is an acronym?
It stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. In short, you observe a thing, and then you position yourself relative to that thing. That's the orient. Mm-hmm. And then you decide what to do, and then you do the thing that you've decided to do, but that takes time. Mm-hmm. It's called the OODA loop, or the decision cycle. And so if you look at how D is orienting or reacting towards Tom, he's got to observe, hey, look, he's going archers. He's got to orient to those archers and go, okay, I'm going to have to deal with these archers. I can't ignore them any longer. Then he has to decide how. Is that going to be cav? Is that going to be skirmishers? Is that going to be mangonels or towers or what's it going to be? And then he's got to do it. And all that takes time to show free. And while he's responding to the show of archers, Tom has time to do something else. Hey, put out more archers, put out some cav, put out a castle, put out, something else on the field. And so if you're inside your enemy's decision cycle, that involves being able to go, hey, I'm going to do this, and this is what he's going to do. And by the time it shows on the field, I'll already be able to counter it. Which it looks like Tom is kind of getting ready for. How do you counter archers? Well, you counter it with skirms or with siege. How do you counter siege? Well, you can do cav. Guess what he's got on the field? He's got cav. What else can you do? Well, you can use defensive buildings. Guess what he's got on the field? Defensive buildings.
You know, I love seeing Mamelukes. This is one of those units I don't think we see very often. And maybe it's because I don't see a lot of Saracen play, but it seems like when I've seen professional Saracen games, they focus on the archers and knights and things. Mamelukes are not that common.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
What makes you... Why do you like Mamelukes?
Oh, I'm not saying it's just the novelty of it all.
Gotcha.
They're kind of cool as they're like a ranged, a mounted throwing axeman, in a way. So it's going to do exactly what you're talking about. It's a perfect counter to skirmishers. I think In fact, let's see here, Mameluke. They have. Well, I will say this: they have no pierce armor. I don't think skirmishers counter Mameluke. I may be mistaken on that.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Then again, I
believe
don't
they
think the Mamelukes do melee damage either.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Okay.
That's what I meant as far as them being mounted,
axemen, yeah.
mounted throwing axemen. Is that's their whole shtick. So I know that Mamelukes are. They'll do good damage to the skirmisher. I don't think that the skirmisher counters the Mameluke, but
They don't.
I might be mistaken.
I'm checking it right now. They're not treated as archers, so
Okay.
skirmishers aren't going to do any bonus damage to them.
Yeah.
And they will do significant damage to the skirmisher. I mean, let's be honest. The skirmisher, most of their damage comes from their bonus damage.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Right. Well,
their
that's true
base
of all
damage is-
counter units.
Yeah, but their damage is 3+1. You don't
Right.
need a lot of pierce armor to be able to counter them, as long as their bonus damage doesn't apply.
Yeah. Now, this is fantastic. Tom has moved in with the archers, inviting a skirmisher response. I don't know if he's planned this or not, but he's inviting that skirmisher response, and the Mamelukes are waiting in the wings, ready to move in
Yep.
as soon as the skirmishers have committed. Go,
All right.
Mamelukes. Go, Gadget Mameluke.
Kaiser, in any other sphere, I'd say I don't think they're old enough to get that reference, but this is Age of Empires 2.
Yeah. You're right. You are exactly right. These are my people. They might actually get some of my
They
references.
might get it, yeah.
Now, something that I think we've maybe implied, but I don't know that I've called out to a significant enough degree
Quick
yet.
interruption.
Yeah.
The skirmishers shredded the Mamelukes.
Yeah. And I don't think that's because of their counter damage. It's just the number of skirmishers coupled with the Mamelukes not having any pierce armor.
So I stand corrected.
Yeah. So I don't think the bonus damage mattered. It was just whatever.
Yeah.
No pierce damage. So many Mamelukes. I think it was numbers more than anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree.
But now we've got knights. Knights do have pierce armor. They hit harder. They got more HP. I think
Yeah.
they have more HP.
Now, this happened so quickly, and I interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
No, I
but
was just
it
going
did
to say
happen.
that something that we have alluded to really before this happened, but I don't think we've highlighted it, was the whole point of Tom's archer play, getting the castle up. Everything he was doing was to block D off of gold. D is totally starved of gold right now, and that, if he loses this game, is going to be why. It's because he's completely blocked off of gold. And without gold, he's forced into this all-trash composition. It's better for the Byzantines than some, but it's still a goldless all-trash comp. And
Now,
I don't know
I
if
do
it'll
want to
work for
point
him.
something out. It might not feel this way. The KD is actually in Big D's favor right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's killed more than he's lost,
Yeah,
which is kind of surprising, but it's true.
yeah. I mean, that is true, and that's good for D, but I'm thinking with the eco lead the way it is right now for Tom, having complete and total control of the gold.
Yeah.
I mean, D is sitting on 66 gold right now.
Yeah.
So he does not have enough
He cannot
for...
get more.
He has, he can't buy anything as far as a siege workshop goes, the battering ram, trebuchet. He can't bring these castles down. If he can't bring the castles down, he can't claim any of this.
Right.
Tom hits imp. What do you do if you're D?
Honestly,
You win the game with skirmishers or you lose. That's the situation right now.
And right now, Tom can put out Trebs. Trebs will deal with...
Yeah.
Now, D is trying to claim some of this gold via castle. I wanted to say this earlier, and it happened so quickly I could not. He dropped down a castle, saw there were knights there, and then deleted the castle and placed one at home. Good for him.
Yeah.
He's now seized a slight corner.
Yeah.
And if he can
This is good.
hold it long enough to get that castle up...
But Tom is an imp and he's already got a trebuchet out.
Exactly.
No way.
Not only will Tom have to get the castle up, he will have to keep the castle up, under fire from a trebuchet, and attacked by gold units against trash.
Do note, by the way, I want to highlight too, Tom has made the switch into knights, right? So mostly knights, archers are kind of back up. D's still on spearmen.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't have the castles up, the gold to research pikemen. There's the GG. There's nothing.
Yep, there it is.
D could do
there's
here.
not much else that could be done. It was a good play. It really was. I think there was no, it never happened, but like play this out for just a sec. Let's say that castle goes up, and let's say he keeps it up for say 2 minutes.
Yep.
Look down here. Tom's got another castle just ready to drop on the face
wow.
of Big D. I mean,
Yeah.
Tom has claimed the entire northern section of the map.
Yep.
He's claimed the entire center of the map.
Yep.
Tom could walk away for 2.5 minutes, grab a coffee, come back, and still have an eco lead at this point, which is not knocking Big D. It's just the power of that central positioning. You called it. You need wood at the beginning, but in the mid to late game, it's all about that gold.
Right. This was a really awesome set. Once again, I've been impressed both in my 2 sets and then, now watching this one. Both players played their hearts out, neck and neck games, just really, really solid performances, sometimes with early aggression deciding the game. Other times, players taking it to that post-imp phase and, raiding over here and tactics over there. This was a really awesome set. D should be proud of his performance. But Tom, once again, winning a set on his opponent's home map to bring the whole thing together. Really, really well done.
Impressive stuff to both players. And I want to say this went all the way out. And it just shows the closeness of the players. It went to 5. It didn't end at 3 or 4.
Right.
And that doesn't always happen.
Right.
So close games, well played. Generally, the opponents won on their own map. And I think in all cases, really, they showed a strategy for their home map that went beyond just, I kind of like this. It's easy to do, fill in the blank. Beyond the tactical element into the strategic, which I love to see.
Yep.
So, good games, y'all.
Really, really
solid
performance.
I want to say a personal thank you for putting yourselves out there for me and my safe non-tournament body to cast. I have 0 skin in the game.
Right.
You have all skin in the game. And for that, I say a personal thank you. I enjoy this. I love this.
Yep. So and I kind of on a similar note, I would give a shout out to the tournament organizers, which again, sponsored by T90 and Dave, but the organizers of the Wandering Squires Cup have done such a great job setting up the brackets to where we have these neck and neck skill versus skill games that are just really awesome. They've done a very good job, so I'm really thankful for that. But hey, that was our quarterfinal match here between Tom and Big D. 10-Finger Tom moving on. Let me think. Yeah, this was round of 8. So then we're gonna have the semifinal coming up, where Tom moves on to the semis, and then it should be the final after that, if I have my bracket information on correctly. So, good job, Tom. Well played. Good luck next round. And D, good luck out there. Hiram, this is all I got for this. Anything else you want to add?
That's all I've got too.
All right.
It's been 5 games of fun, so thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks for the players for playing and the organizers for organizing. This is Hiram of Tyre.
And this is the Iron Kaiser along with him. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Signing out.